Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is so lovely to see so far 81 of you, although I'm sure many more will be watching this recording. This will all be recorded and posted. Welcome. Oh, aw, my fave is here. I haven't talked to Lee in a long time. Yay. So we are coming to you today from all corners of the U.S. to talk about citizen science in your summer reading program. Your adventure begins at the library. So many of you have already been introducing yourselves in the chat. I mentioned the webinar will be recorded. We'll send it in a follow-up email to everyone registered, but also in a blog post that SciStarter has developed. Also, our friends at StarNet have developed one too. So say hi in the chat. And I think we have a fun little question here. I'm going to throw up a poll. Like I said, I went a little poll crazy because I was having fun with these new poll options. First poll here is, what's your science adventure today? You don't know where we're going with this, but we're going somewhere. But just if you were just to look at these pictures, what adventure, what are you feeling like going on today? What type of science adventure? Oh, we're pretty even. Welcome everyone from Oklahoma, from New York. Yay. We'll give everyone a few more minutes. Yay, we're up to 100 participants. Woohoo! All right, what science adventure are you feeling like joining us on today? I'm going to close the poll. We are pretty split here between underwater adventure, cosmic quest, backyard explorer, and wildlife detective. So we'll talk a little bit more about what these different adventures mean in just a minute, but wanted to just see what you were feeling like today. So this webinar is brought to you by lots of different people. SciStarter, which is a citizen science global hub. We feature citizen science resources for everyone and especially libraries. I am Tara Cox. I'm at the National Girls Collaborative Project and at SciStarter, and I direct the Citizen and Community Science Library Network, which I hope many of you are part of. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. I'm also joined by my wonderful colleagues at StarNet. We have Dylan Connolly, Education Specialist, and Claire Radcliffe, Education Associate, also from the Space Science Institute. Welcome. And then also Dawn Krause, the Executive Director of the Collaborative Summer Library Program, which is what this summer reading theme is all about and where it comes from. And we are just so happy to partner together to bring you a different spin on what your summer reading program can look like. Your adventure begins at the library. So we're going to pass it over to Dawn to just give us a brief word about the theme, about the summer, the Collaborative Summer Library Program. So please, Dawn, take the stage.
Sorry, Tara, Emma is here.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. And thanks to all the partners that are bringing this together. Really happy to be here. I have only been with CSLP for less than a year. It'll be a year in May as executive director. So I haven't had a chance to meet everyone and to actually, interact a lot with all of our partners yet. But so looking forward to seeing where all of this goes in the next themes. This year, the theme is adventure. And I am telling you, wow, thank you so much, everyone who has participated and looked at our manual and who shopped in our store online. We have had just an overwhelming response to this theme because I think it does hit on so many different themes locally and broader themes as well. So CSLP is a nonprofit 501c3, so everything you put into it, you actually get back out of it. So the more that we put into it, the better we can make it so that CSLP can fulfill its mission to help you better build community. So this year, we have 40 member states and some island nations. So when we talk about a lot of the resources that we're going to offer you, Most of you are probably getting these resources for free but via your state library agency or another organization. So if you do have questions about how to get access to any of these resources, please do reach out to us at cslpreads.org, and we'd be happy to hook you up with your state representative so that we can get you into the programming manual and looking at all these great resources. We are member driven, so we do take your feedback very seriously. You've chosen Color Our World as the 2025 theme for next year already, and we're working on 2026 and 2027 right now. So we're always looking ahead. But adventure, oh my goodness, there's just so much rich content here. Libraries have told me they're going to do a travel interpretation of this. They're going to do explorers, indoor and outdoor types of programming, getting in touch with nature, gaming types of programs like Oregon Trail, camp themes like Camp Read a Lot. Does that not sound incredibly fun? I want to go to Camp Read a Lot. I hope everybody else does too. Road trips, another interpretation, safaris, national parks, the Smokey Bear tie-in with the Forest Service, imagination, adventures in the dark, adventures close to home, scavenger hunts, and of course we have a STEM-focused PDF that you all have contributed to in our programming manual. So I know that you're going to talk about a lot of those programs. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but if anybody has any questions about CSLP and our resources for me, just go ahead and I'll answer those questions in the chat. I'm going to hand it back.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And welcome everyone, members and non-members. We are just so happy to have you and to learn about these wonderful resources today. All right, let's jump in. So our learning goals for today, there are probably more than this, but this is the three main ones, is to sort of gain an understanding of what is citizen science for those that might not be totally familiar with the concept. Also to be exposed with some great citizen science projects and STEM activities that tie into this summer reading theme. And then also to learn about the resources that both SciStarter and StarNet have to support your programming. So that's what we're going to try to accomplish today in the next 50 minutes. With lots of time for questions, we really encourage questions. So you can always drop those in the chat or in the Q&A. All right, let's do some temperature checks. Let me throw up another poll here. So first one is, how likely are you to do STEM programming at your library this summer? Extremely likely, which is a 10, to not likely, a 0. All right, let's see. Wow, most of you said at least, wow, most of you said extremely likely. So 10 out of 10, while you know, the majority are at least somewhat likely. So that's really, really great to hear. And I think you'll find this webinar very valuable. The second poll, how familiar are you with citizen science? Not very familiar, extremely familiar, and or somewhere in between. Probably could have given this a rating scale of 0 to 5. There's a lot of ratings here, but I like it. Gives you some nuance. Oh, 100% of the people answered. Wow. I love libraries. You're on the ball. All right. Wow, we are all over the map here. Let me share the results. Some folks are not very familiar, but then we do have folks somewhere in the middle and folks on either end. So we'll do our best to cover for everybody on this spectrum, but this is going to be a brief introduction to citizen science, and we'll tell you how to learn more about it. And thank you, Emma, for putting that link in the chat, more about it and to get even more familiar, but it's good to know where we're at. So what is citizen science? Let me know in the chat for those who think that they are familiar with it or think they know the concept. Please add it in the chat. I'm sure you do. What is citizen science? And I also have a little caveat here. You may also have heard it referred to as public participation in science, community science, open science. We use all of these terms. It's a sort of umbrella term. Community-based data collection compiled and analyzed by scientists. Okay. Yes, I prefer community science, absolutely, but it's getting everyone involved in scientific research in your area. Yep. Everyday citizens gathering data to collect, to tell about topics in their area is when people in the community gather data for scientific research. Yep, Kathy says where anyone can turn in data such as weather information. You're all spot on. So citizen or community science or open science or public participation in science is a global movement that enables people from all walks of life to collaborate with scientists, with researchers, to participate in real scientific research. It's how people are making an impact about issues that they care about. And coming up in just 3 days is Citizen Science Month, and I hope that you'll all engage in community science and open science, and we'll tell you more about that. But that is sort of the general definition of citizen science. And we'll get into the specifics in just a minute. But because of this public engagement, because of everyday people helping to contribute to real scientific research, we know so many more things than we would have not known had those people not participated, such as bird populations have declined by 50% in certain areas. Birds are breeding earlier. That's something that I've certainly noticed on the East Coast. They say as you age, you become more of a birder every day, and that is true for me because I'm very interested in bird calls and I'm noticing things. Another really funky and interesting citizen science project involved having everyday people collect swabs of their belly buttons. And because of people contributing that data, we know that there's 50 types of bacteria that live in your belly button. Yummy. We also know that flowering species are blooming. I mean, that is especially apparent right now. Flowers and plants are blooming much earlier. There's an amazing citizen science project that encourages people to look for new auroras or Margaret says, what? I didn't know about the belly buttons. Yeah, it's weird. New auroras in the night sky. And one person found and discovered a new aurora and named it Steve. So you can name your discoveries. And then, this is a great example. This last one, in one weekend in 2019, citizen scientists accomplished 2,566 research hours, which is the equivalent to 3.5 months in a lab to accelerate research in Alzheimer's. So again, citizen science helps it to contribute to acceleration of projects. It helps people to be able to contribute their data, their knowledge back into science, and that is why we really love citizen science. So just a quick poll here. Based on what you've heard, based on what we just said, what counts as public participation in scientific research? Which of these things count? Let me throw up the poll. And this is a select multiple choice. What counts as public participation in scientific research? What do you think? Is it A, taking photos and uploading it to an app called iNaturalist? Is it B, identifying mosquito habitats and logging it into an app called Globe Observer? Is it C, planting a pollinator garden to increase pollinator activity? Is it D, testing your local water and reporting the findings to Crowd the Tap? What do you think counts as public participation in scientific research? I think research is that key piece here.
Tara, did you make this one multiple so they could select multiple, or should they select the one that's the odd man out?
No, they can select multiple.
Okay, cool.
Yes, there are multiple answers. All right. Interesting. Okay, so The one that people ranked the most likely is D, and yes, that does count as public participation in scientific research. A also counts, B also counts, but C doesn't count in this instance, in sort of our broad definition of citizen science. Why do you think C is the one that doesn't necessarily count as a broad definition of citizen science under this broad definition? Ah, so Emily and Catherine, yes. So people are saying in the chat, that's right. There's no data collection. Nothing is recorded. No information is being shared with scientists. Absolutely. Yes, the pollinator increase is not documented. Love that. So how can you turn this into a citizen science project? What are some ways? And we'll talk about them in a little bit. Collect data to share. Yep, count the pollinators. There are projects that we're going to talk about that will support this activity and help you to make it into a citizen science project, like the Great Sunflower Project, or even iNaturalist, like the one above. You can take photos. Exactly. Amber says use iNat to identify pollinators. Yes. So again, while there are many definitions for citizen or community or open science, we have some sort of general characteristics that each of these types of activities includes. It involves data collection, like taking an image or taking a measurement. Sometimes it involves data analysis. So another good problem is that sometimes scientists have too much data, especially NASA, with all of the amazing images that NASA takes and the work that NASA is doing. They have a lot of data and they need people to analyze it. So sometimes citizen science involves not collecting the data, but helping to analyze it. There's often following protocols or a common set of instructions to ensure data quality. Sharing or reporting, that is a huge part of this. It's not just collecting the data for yourself, but sharing it back with the researchers and the scientists on apps like iNaturalist or Globe. And it's often connected to a research project, either something that a university is hosting. There's national and there's global projects, and there's also projects that are very hyper-local. So citizen science can range in all of these ways. Oh, and it may be listed on one of our platforms, which SciStarter, which we'll talk about in just a second, is this global platform for citizen science projects and resources. And we really do vet a lot of projects to make sure that the ways to participate are accessible. We really help project scientists to make their data collection accessible. We support facilitator organizations like libraries to be able to bring awareness and resources to their library users to participate in citizen science. So if you don't already have a, yes, thank you, Emma. If you don't already have a SciStarter account, please consider making one today. You all can become community scientists and promote it to your library users as well. So both SciStarter and StarNet are library network organizations. We both have an aim to build capacity of libraries around STEM. SciStarter is focused very much on citizen and community science. StarNet is focused on community science, but also just general STEM programming. And so we encourage you to sign up for both of our networks absolutely free. It's just a sign up form. And we both have regular news newsletters, webinars like this. We've been collaborating more and more because our work is so closely aligned. So we encourage you to join these networks. Okay, now to the fun part, jumping into how this all ties into adventure at your library. Oh, Lily says, I went to one of StarNet's library eclipse workshops and it was great. Yes, it was. And I'll tell you, Claire and Dylan have been all over the country this past year promoting the eclipse. I know it's coming up. We can share those resources there too. We have lots of recordings of all the resources. And so if you haven't yet checked out the eclipse webinars, please do so. We are still planning for that. We have a week to go, right? Okay, let's jump in. So there are tons of different science themes that fit within the adventure in your library. So we just came up with some fun titles here to sort of group the different resources under. We have adventure, underwater adventure, we have cosmic quests, backyard explorers, and wildlife detectives. So what we're going to do now is jump into each of these themes and tell you a little bit about the citizen science projects that anybody can engage with that fit and correspond with these themes. And then Claire and Dylan are going to tell us about some really great hands-on STEM activities that can help build out the programming around these different projects. So any questions? I know there's already been a lot shared. I'll pause now if there's any questions. I know I see a lot of hands raised. Unfortunately, because we're in a webinar, people can't unmute, but please add any questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and I'll pause for just a minute for any questions up until now. Yes, so we'll be getting this recording. Absolutely. We will send it in a follow-up email to everybody that registered, and then we're going to post it on YouTube and post it on our various websites. Yes, we'll add the slide. I'll send the slide deck in a PDF as well. And we have one comment from Haley, not a question, but I do want to plug in so Haley is doing some research on how people are engaging in citizen science. So Haley, why don't you tell us a little bit about it in the chat, and how we can get in contact with you. Okay. Let's jump in. So like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about the science, the citizen science projects, and the STEM activities as we go through these themes. Before we jump fully into the themes, actually, there was one other thing that I wanted to say is that we've done a very brief introduction of citizen science for you today, but we have a lot of resources to get you started that on SciStarter, one of which is this online tutorial, Foundations of Citizen Science. It's for anyone. So your patrons can use it, your staff can use it. It is a great introduction to what the benefits and the value and the skills that needed to participate in public participation in scientific research. And then at SciStarter, we also have some great resources, just turnkey ways to build awareness and spark interest in citizen science. Here's an example from the Waldorf Public Library, a poster of what is citizen science. So we have lots of resources for you to download. Okay, underwater adventures. There were so many projects to choose from for this theme, but here are some that I thought would resonate really well with libraries because these projects can be done with almost anyone. So anyone can essentially participate in citizen science and public participation in science. If you are below the age of, Emma, remind me, is it 13 or 14?
For using email?
For using to create a
Oh,
SciStarter.
to have an account, yes, 13 and up.
Okay, so to create an account on SciStarter and to track your participation in projects, you do have to be 13 and up, but anybody can help collect data, and then we encourage like an adult or the group leader to submit the data on behalf of the group. So that's all possible. My host is actually, I feel like I need to turn it over to Emma to talk about some of these because Emma from SciStarter, which Emma, we didn't introduce you. Welcome, Emma. Emma is our resident citizen science extraordinaire, knows everything. Hello, Emma. Do you want to talk about some of these projects?
I can talk about a couple of them.
Yeah.
And the ones that I've done most recently anyway, I will make a caveat. I have not done crowd water yet. So that's the one that I have not done. But dolphin chat is really fun. You get to look at evaluating dolphin noises underwater and helping us understand how to better understand what different noises mean so we can make conservation choices about getting signals to boats to stay away from certain areas. There's another one called Manatee Chat that does the same concept. So those are cool ones. Marine Debris Tracker is all, I'm going backwards, I'm so sorry. Marine Debris Tracker, which is all about litter cleanups. And so it came out of the idea that a lot of our pollution ends up in the ocean. And so in order to stop that, no matter where you are, whether or not you're close to water or not, we can pick up litter, quantify it, label what it is, and make our litter cleanups a lot more productive because we then have data on what is actually being thrown on the ground and what's getting into our waters, our waterways. So it does help with that quite a bit. My Coast is all about doing beach cleanups as well, but they're also about documenting how our landscapes of coasts are changing. And so if you notice a lot of erosion on the beach, if you don't notice that, but you just want to keep a relative record of what's going on over time, that's a really great way to do so. And there are always more projects that qualify under underwater adventure. So if you're always looking for more, you can just look up water. on
Yeah,
SciStarter.
exactly. Well, and the other reason that we wanted to highlight some of these is that, as you notice, the Dolphin Chat is an online project. So that's what's another really great benefit of some of these projects is that you don't have to be by the sea to be able to do some of these. And so that's why we highly encourage. That's what's part of the adventure, right? Is participating online. All right, I'm gonna pass it over to, I think, is it Claire to talk about this project?
Yeah, so first I just want to say all of these hands-on activities from StarNet you can find on our STEM Activity Clearinghouse online. A link to that, I believe, is in the link bank that Dylan's been dropping in the chat. But we wanted to highlight this one. It's called Polar Bears Go with the Flows. This is a collaborative game that builds on understanding how human actions impact global change. And the intended audience is really tweens and up. You could maybe have some family members in there, but just developmentally, when you're talking about climate change, you want to make sure you're scaffolding it in an age-appropriate way. You don't want little kids, 5-year-olds to be, oh my gosh, the ice is disappearing. What is going to happen to the animals? But this is like a kind of a fun entryway to start talking about that, and also really focusing on our actions and how our actions can be positive or negative, depending on what they are, on the environment as a whole. So on the next page, it shows the game. So everything can just be downloaded from the activity and just printed out and then cut out. So you have a game board, that's the little square in the bottom right-hand corner. And then it comes with ice flow puzzle pieces. So you can just cut that out. You can leave them as paper, or you can glue them to the backs of cardboard if you want it to be a little sturdier, but I've always done it with regular paper and it works fine. And those all fit together like a puzzle in the middle of the game board. And then you have eco bloopers, eco facts, and green points. So all of these will kind of work together to either have the ice break apart, or you can work together as a team to come up with solutions to keep the ice all together. Then it also comes with one polar bear that you put, on the ice floe, and then there are game pieces. You will need a 6-sided die. That's the only thing not included, like in the printout of the game, that you'd have to bring as part of the materials for the game. But essentially, you're each going around, you roll the dice and you move your little game piece that many pieces, and you either land on an eco fact, where you just kind of can learn. You can pull the eco fact and read what's on the back of it, and it's telling you about what's happening with the environment. If you land on an eco blooper, you have 3 choices. You can either use your green points to pay for whatever that environmental mishap is, and that way you don't have to lose a piece of ice. Or if you don't have enough green points to pay for that, you can either move back 4 spaces, which you're only allowed to do twice during the game, or if you can't move back anymore and you don't have enough points to pay for that environmental mishap, you do have to remove a piece of ice. So you just kind of keep going around the board. If you run out of options and you don't want to remove a piece of ice because you want to keep that ecosystem intact, you can work with the other members playing the game. This is really a collaborative game. You all win or lose together. So if you don't have enough points, you can ask other members on your team if they would share some points. And the goal is to make sure there's one of the ice flows left. As long as there's one left, you all win the game together. So this has an opportunity for you to talk about what are some solutions to some of the problems that we face? What are actions that the participants are already doing in their lives to make less of an impact on our environment? So solutions can be, changing out incandescent light bulbs with more efficient light bulbs, or using the microwave instead of the oven because it's actually a lot more efficient. And so there's all kinds of tips kind of embedded throughout the game. So you're playing, you're having fun, and kids are learning about just little ways that we can all take responsibility for this home, this planet that we call our home. And on the next page, there are some science connections built into this activity as well. The overarching theme is that ice caps of the Arctic and Antarctic are important regulators of the global climate and ocean temperatures. So again, even if you don't live near the coast, or you don't live in the Arctic, which who does, we have connections based on what is happening globally in the climate of the Earth. Of course, sea ice provides vital habitat to animals. So that's one of the other fun pieces. All of the little game pieces are different native animals from the Arctic. So you can start to learn about native animals from that region as well. And then, of course, human activity is contributing to climate change, causing a decline in sea ice. So you can see in this picture here, the Arctic sea ice from 1984 to 2012 has decreased about 40%. So again, just think about who you're playing this game with. Might not be developmentally appropriate for little kids, but for those older kids that are starting to learn more about the global climate change and the impacts humans have, this can be just a fun and collaborative way to come up with solutions and talk about these issues.
I love that, and it pairs well with so many of the citizen science projects around climate change. It's a way to bring that relevance piece in, especially for youth that don't necessarily know why they're collecting the data and why that matters. It's sort of building that whole program in together. Love that.
Yeah, and just a few more underwater activities. We have way more than even just these three and the polar bear game I just talked about on the activity clearinghouse. Again, you can, similar with SciStarter, you can search water, underwater, but just three more of my favorites. One is called A Drop in the Bucket. So this is a demonstration you do using a bucket and some measuring cups, and it shows how much of our planet is covered in water, but how much of that is either tied up as ice, polar ice, or salt water that we cannot use for drinking and showering and cleaning. And it really is a visual representation of how little water we actually do have to use, and how important it is to have conservation efforts around our fresh water. Catch the World's Oceans is a really fun icebreaker where you get to know each other just by throwing around a globe. This could be an inflatable globe or something like that. But it's the link to all of these activities are in the link bank. And then finally, make an ocean ecosystem dessert. If you're bringing food into your programs, this is a fun way to talk about what is in an ecosystem. And then you use Jell-O and Swedish fish and licorice. And at the end, you get to eat it while learning about the concepts of an ecosystem.
Wonderful. And as Claire said, there's so many more these STEM projects that correspond to the under the sea adventure. Or what did I say? Underwater adventure? Yeah, that was the name for this theme. And as a reminder, citizen science and community engagement in science is for everyone. A lot of the projects are great for your adult programs as well. A lot of most of them, all of them, in fact. I mean, that's really the core audience of public participation in science, but youth can also participate. So including some of these hands-on activities with the data collection piece is really great for building out like a robust and holistic program. Okay. Our next theme is Cosmic Quest. Again, there were so many to choose from in this theme, especially from our friends at NASA. There's tons of really fun projects. My favorite of these is measuring light, Globe at Night, which is about measuring light pollution. I love astronomy, and I visit my parents often down the shore, and it's, coming from the city, I'm like, wow, I can see so many more stars here. But light pollution is is an issue, and it's not just because we can't see the beautiful stars. Light pollution affects bird migration, it affects our sleep, and so Globe at Night is a project that helps us measure where the dark sky is in on the globe, and it's you do need a light meter for it, but it's at SciStarter we have a kit building guide for a Globe at Night kit, which you'll see in the bottom picture here, that tells you where to purchase the light meter and has activity instructions for how to build out a kit for this project. I'm not sure if anybody here of our participants has any of the SciStarter kits or has built any of these citizen science kits, but they're really great ways to encourage public participation in science. We have different projects in it that have some of these specialized tools like the light meter. And we've developed these build a kit guides for libraries too, from soup to nuts, that build a kit like the one that you see and put it into circulation so that anybody can check out and have an adventure on their own with some of these projects. So that's a great one. Emma, do you want to tell us about some of these other projects?
Sure. For sungrazer and cloud spotting, I actually was about to write it in the chat, so I'll just hit enter. But cloud spotting on Mars is actually one of the first projects I ever did for citizen science, and I love it. You actually get to kind of be like a meteorologist on Mars through their interface on Zooniverse. So essentially, you're literally just labeling where you see clouds, and they tell you how to find them. And for sungrazer is interesting because we actually just did an event that included sungrazer. So if you follow along with Do NASA Science Live at all, our most recent event was What's It Mean to Be Cool? And it included sungrazer because comets are covered in ice. And there's a bunch that graze past our sun, and we actually track them using our lovely telescopes that I don't remember the names of, where we can see them and we block out the sun with a big circle. And so what you're looking at in sungrazer is little streaks of light heading towards the big blob in the center of the sky that is the sun. And by doing that, we're able to find comets, and we're nearing 5,000 comets discovered, and the grand majority of them were discovered by citizen scientists. So it's pretty cool to know that that one is almost entirely a topic investigated by regular people, non-scientists just like us. For Disk Detective, it's similar in that it is on, it's an online version. So a lot of these like cosmic ones where we can't actually see very far into space, we need to use our fancy telescopes, and we just have too much data to go through. So that's another one that's specific to looking at images through our telescopes from NASA or satellites, partnerships across different organizations using those. So
Emma, that should say online, right? Disk Detective is
Online?
online.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I just realized, I was like, I don't think we can go outside and see these dusty debris around stars. That one is images online.
I will fix that for the.
No, it's okay. I just realized too. I was like, wait, can you? No. Yeah, so this is another great example of both in-person and outdoor activities. The Globe at Night, it involves going out on a moonless night and taking a light measurement. It doesn't have to be a moonless night, but that's what they suggest. It's great to pair with something like a star party because you can collect data about the dark sky while you are having a star party to observe constellations. But these other projects are all online and really, really cool and allow you to put on your astronomer and physicist and data detective hat. And they're great for adults and for youth. Although, Emma, you were saying sungrazers is pretty challenging and competitive. So maybe that skews a bit older for maybe older teens and adults.
Yeah, in fact, and I'll change this on the slides. I think I copied and pasted wrong. The Disk Detective one, I would say that one it's not exactly competitive, but I would say that older ages are probably better. Cloud spotting on Mars is pretty easy. So if you have 10-year-olds, like they're definitely able to do it and beyond. But the other ones, Sungrazer and Disk Detective, are probably more or better for older kids, middle school and up, maybe high school.
Yeah, well, and they're challenging and competitive because often NASA will promote folks that have found, made discoveries, and so people are always sort of vying for, to get promoted by NASA for their citizen science discoveries. Is that right, Emma?
Yes, people get publicized or
right.
The word. People are listed on publications as authors, as citizen scientists, absolutely. And I've met a few who have actually even if you're young and start working on this, eventually, if you become an expert on this, they might even, NASA ends up hiring citizen scientists who are just very familiar with the data. And I think, Dylan, I'm sorry, were you going to say something in regards to
Oh yeah, and one of the things I wanted to point out too is what's great, I think, about SciStarter that we also do for the STEM Activity Clearinghouse, where all the activities we're going to be sharing out today is both the STEM Activity Clearinghouse pages and the SciStarter project pages for all of everything we're talking about include information about like ideal age groups for each of those projects and activities, and the finders, the search functions on both the STEM Activity Clearinghouse and SciStarter both have an option to filter by age if you are looking for age-specific programming for the four-year library. Oh, thank you for letting me know that, Alyssa. Let me turn up the gain on my mic. Is that a little better? Is that coming through a little clearer? Excellent. But I was saying both the search functions on the SciStarter website and the STEM Activity Clearinghouse have really fantastic options to filter by age and content if you're looking for age-specific programming.
Wonderful. All right, Dylan, actually, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us about some great hands-on activities that compare with these citizen science projects.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to speed through this. We are coming up. It's about a quarter left of the hour, so I want to make sure we get to everything we're going to talk about today. But this is one really fantastic space activity from the STEM Activity Clearinghouse. The link to this is in the link bank that we've been sharing out. This is a papercraft model of the Parker Solar Probe. If you want to build off some of the excitement around heliophysics and solar science that's accompanying the eclipse coming up in just about a week, or it's also NASA's big year of heliophysics, where a bunch of NASA is releasing a bunch of information and cool resources around solar science. This is a really fantastic way to pair a papercraft with that. This makes a really good take and make kit, as well as a in-person facilitated activity. This is a model of the Parker Solar Probe, which is the first spacecraft to pass through the lower solar corona. So it's taking direct measurements of particles, magnetic fields within the sun's atmosphere itself. And it's got a really, really simple amount of supplies. You just need some cardstock or heavy paper, coloring and drawing supplies to decorate your paper craft, some scissors or something to cut with, and liquid glue. I will say there's some finicky folding in this, so glue sticks are not recommended. I would definitely recommend liquid glue because you need something with a little bit more bond. But we also have a JWST, or James Webb Space Telescope papercraft. And you can use this and pair the two of these, kind of compare different designs for uncrewed NASA craft. Really, really fun activity that really makes a great passive table activity if you're doing some citizen science programming, or a take and make kit that your patrons can take home after their citizen science programming is done. If we move on to the next slide, we also have a few more options for some really fun space. Oh, sorry. Let's go back to the one slide. This is included in the guide for the activity, but there's some cool comparisons between the papercraft itself and the actual Parker Solar Probe.
Is this the slide you want?
That was the previous one, but
Okay, sorry.
we're trying. No, it's okay. We're pushed for time, so I want to make sure we're getting to everything. We also have a few more activities that are included in the link bank all around space exploration. We have a really fantastic activity you can see here called Soda Straw Rocket that has an engineering design challenge. You build soda straw some rockets out of some paper using a printable template, and you can design different nose cones. And there's actually included graphing grid and an observation table, so you can do multiple trials if you have some middle grade or high school learners to redesign their soda straw rocket, specifically the size of that nose cone on the rocket, and test that over multiple trials and see how fast and far those soda rockets travel. We also have another couple of cool activities, an activity that invites groups of people to build and design their own space colony, and think about what the different supplies you might need, what considerations you might need to take into account in advance. Really, really cool activity that will also pair, and if you're not doing space exploration, that's a really great activity that could pair well with if you're doing some some learning about agriculture or life in harsh environments. We're going to be talking about some desert adaptation activities later that would pair really well with that. So that's a really cool activity. And another board game, the Mission to Space board game, which is a really, really fun one where you and a group of participants basically design and plan a space mission together, and has stuff about budgeting, about human resources, all sorts of different things you need to make a space mission succeed. So there's some really, really cool options to pair some of those space exploration, citizen science activities with some hands-on learning opportunities through these STEM activities.
I love it. You can tell how passionate we are about our STEM programming. We obviously overpacked this webinar with resources for you, so we're going to have to go a little faster and spend less time getting excited about each activity, but that's who we are. That is why we do what we do. But thank you, Dylan. Those were awesome. Our next theme is Backyard Explorers. Tons of projects that you can do right outside your front door, literally from your kitchen window or your library window. Some of the great ones here are IC-Change and iNaturalist, which are two apps that you can use to document changes in your environment, basically uploading anything that you notice in your environment. And then the Great Sunflower Project is the one that I was talking about earlier that would help turn your pollinator garden efforts, because I know many libraries are building pollinator gardens, into public participation in science by monitoring pollinator activity through the Great Sunflower Project, which you can download worksheets for anybody to go and count and observe a plant for a certain number of time and see how many pollinators come, and then upload that data back to the project. There is a kit associated with the Great Sunflower Project too, if you want to build that for folks to check out and monitor pollinators on their own. And then the Globe Observer app, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Globe Observer app, which has lots of different protocol, one of which is the Cloud Observer activity, which goes out and encourages anybody to go monitor cloud cover in their environment and report that data back to scientists. Those are just 4 simple, for all ages, all outdoors, really engaging activities that would turn any of your STEM programs into citizen science, public participation in science projects. And we're going to talk about an event called a BioBlitz in a little bit, which corresponds to these projects as well. Claire, tell us about some fun STEM activities that pair with a backyard adventure theme.
Yeah. So this first activity is all about exploring waffle gardens, which is a technique developed centuries ago by indigenous peoples of the American Southwest, and it's still used today. So this activity I actually co-developed with a member of the Laguna Pueblo, and they shared with me what they do every single year and how many crops they're able to grow in an arid desert environment. So we created this activity to be done as a take and make kit or a facilitated program. So you can see here in this picture, it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. You shape the soil into berms around the crops that you're growing in the shape of waffles, and that will help direct any water to the roots of the plant rather than let it disperse throughout the soil. So it's a really simple and ingenious way of capitalizing on the water that you get throughout the summer. So on the next page, it shows just the materials if you're turning this into a kit. We did design this as a investigation. So it's a comparison. So you'll need 2 rectangular containers for planting, some seeds, craft sticks for collecting some data, the data sheets for folks to write down their observations. The activity does come with instructions for you as a facilitator, and then you would need to purchase some garden soil or even just use the soil out in the yard. But essentially one of those planting containers, you're not going to create the waffle shapes. You're just going to plant the seeds. And on the other one, you're going to, work to make those little intricate waffle shapes and then plant your seeds in the middle of each one. And then every day you give it a water on the first day, but then every day after that, you test it to see if it needs to be watered or not. And that's where those craft sticks come in. It's a really low tech way of it's like checking the batter. If you're baking a cake, you put a toothpick in. It's the same type of concept. So you just dip the craft stick in. If it comes up completely dry, you need to water it. If it comes up with moist pieces of soil stuck to it, you can wait another day. And so over time, as you collect your observations, you'll notice you need to water the waffle garden container much less than you need to on the one that doesn't have the waffles. And on the next slide, shows it comes with a data collection sheet for you to record your observations and make your comparisons between the two trays. There is a tech extension if you have access to microbits. You can learn how to code your microbit to test for soil moisture content, but otherwise it can be super low tech. You just use some craft sticks. Just a few other nature activities. Home Sweet Home is all about learning about what an organism needs to survive, specifically animals. So it's going into specific animals and what they need in terms of their shelter, food, and water needs, and you create a little home. There's a windstreamer activity, a season-seeking activity, which is just going on walks every season and writing down your observations of the seasonal changes. But there's tons more nature activities on the STEM Activity Clearinghouse.
Wonderful. All right, our last theme, Wildlife Detective, is all about animal observations. And these are just some projects that we pulled that you can do anywhere outside and involve animals. Project Squirrel is a great one. It just helps to understand squirrel ecology. I know not everywhere has squirrels, but here in the Northeast, we have a ton of squirrels, and they do really weird things if you look at them closely. So that's a great one to hone in your observation skills. Instant Wild, actually, I'm going to let Emma talk about that one in a second because she's more familiar with it, but I'll talk about these other two. Zombie Watch is in North America, but mostly in the West. It's looking for something called a zombie fly. You probably heard about this if you're out west. It's a fly that's infected with a parasite that then takes over a bee that then becomes like a zombie. It's crazy and sad and cool. And the Zombie Watch helps it helps I think you have to build a trap and then look to see if if your bees are infected with this zombie parasite. And there's a kit for that as well. And then Globe Observer Mosquito Mapper is documenting mosquito habitats. And that's another protocol on the Globe Observer app. And I think mosquitoes are a problem everywhere in the US, so that one should work everywhere. And then I'll let Emma talk about Instant Wild, which is an online way to become a wildlife detective.
Yeah, and I'll be very quick, sorry. So Instant Wild is an online one. I love this one because it's camera traps, and so you're looking at animals basically photobombing cameras in nature. And so as a observer and someone who is actually helping analyze the data, all you're doing is looking at the photos, looking at the native species in the area and identifying which one is in the image. And so it's really quick. You can get a lot of work done on each one, so you feel like you're accomplishing a lot when you're working on it. And there are a lot of projects. You can be looking at really unique places across the world. So regardless of not being able to go on vacation, let's say, you can have a mini vacation through going on Instant Wild and looking at all these cool nature places.
Exactly. I think Dawn was saying like safari is a theme that people are doing in conjunction with the adventures at your library. This one pairs extremely well with the safari theme because you're looking at real images, but also contributing to scientific research, which we love.
Mm-hmm. Good conservation data. Yeah,
exactly. Dylan, tell us about some fun animal hands-on activities that pair with these.
So this is a really fun one called Build-A-Bug. So a lot of the activities we have listed under these animal kind of theme are all about exploring different animal adaptations in different environments. So this is a really fun one called Build-A-Bug that explores the adaptations of aquatic macroinvertebrates or small bugs or other things without a backbone that are visible to the naked eye and live in freshwater environments. And what's cool about this is we have both the activity and the how-to video that we have to accompany it covers some of the background science and the adaptations of different aquatic macroinvertebrates. And then you invite learners to design their own aquatic macroinvertebrate once they understand some of those adaptations, and to invent their own out of any craft material. So you can do things like this one is clearly made out of some string, maybe some pipe cleaner, and some modeling clay. You can do, this is a really great, if you are like most people who run kind of informal STEM programming, and you have a giant cabinet of leftover craft supplies, of, you know, random popsicle sticks and cotton balls and scraps of scrap paper. There's a really, really cool activity for putting out your leftover craft supplies and using them up in creative ways. So it's a really low cost activity that pairs really well with some explorations of different animals and thinking about animals and their interaction with nature. So we have an in-depth how-to video and implementation guide. It also makes a really fantastic take and make kit, because as you said, you can take out just a random bag of some craft supplies and put that into individual bags and send people home with this activity. Invite them to tag you on social media with their their Build-A-Bug creations, and follow up with some of your learners and patrons after some citizen science programming around animals. We also have a few other adaptation activities on the Clearinghouse. We have one that's called Adaptation: A Way of Life, that's specifically focused on desert environments, and it has actually 6 different sub-activities, including some demonstrations on how evaporation works, how a model for how different succulents like prickly pears and cacti store water, as well as explorations of how animals survive in desert environments, and how the evaporative forces of dry environments are hard to deal with. We also have an activity about the adaptations of cave critters and what they need to survive in dark environments, and everybody's favorite Biology 101 activity, an activity all about bird beaks. If you have ever read anything about Darwin's finches, or you think back to your high school or college biology classes, there's a really cool activity all exploring bird beaks and how different shapes and types of bird beaks are used for different types of food. And all of these are, again, available in the link bank that we've been sharing out in the chat throughout today's webinar.
Thank you, Dylan. So, and somebody had a question in the Q&A, is there a make and take tag? And it wouldn't be on SciStarter, it would be in the Clearinghouse. Can you search for make and take in the?
Absolutely. On the
Okay.
Clearinghouse, there is we both have a take and make collection. We have collections on the Clearinghouse of activities that are kind of sorted by theme or type. And then you can also search on the search function. I mentioned earlier, you can search by age ranges for activities, content area, and one of the tags you can search for on the Clearinghouse is take and make activities.
Wonderful. So here's just a couple of event examples where you can bring all of these resources together in a, in a fun, exciting way for all families. Here's a pollinator event that was held at Sholo Public Library a couple of years ago that incorporated the Great Sunflower Project and collecting data on pollinators, and then also some really fun pollinator activities. Here is a star party example where you can, I mentioned this before, you can go out to the Measuring Light at Night kit, you can invite amateur astronomers, you can do a make and take with different LED to constellation activities, and then a BioBlitz, which is an event to get a lot of people to collect data at one time using the iNaturalist app. So it's a great way to both introduce citizen science. In the right, you'll see the kit that the Build-A-Kit guide there with some of the resources that we suggest for a BioBlitz, like these lenses that you can add to your smartphone, fields guides. So these are just different event examples. You don't have to host an event with your programming. You can do this as part of your STEM club, as part of a book club with older adults, as part of an affinity group, but these events are also really good ways to bring all of these resources together. And we're going to send all of this. I know we are almost at time, which I hate going over time, and because we try to maximize our time and know you're all so busy. And sorry for going as fast as we had to go because I think we just put too much in. There's so much to share. But we will follow up with an email to everybody with the recording and all of these resources. We have editable slide decks for an introduction to citizen science event. The STEM Activity Clearinghouse is a great resource to go and look up the different activities. We have promotional materials, the kit building guides, event recipe cards for some of the events that I mentioned, social media toolkit to help you promote your resources. So we'll send it all. Megan says, do you ever work with Skype a scientist to have scientists present? We have seen libraries absolutely work with Skype a scientist to have scientists present. Also, NASA has a subject matter expert form. And also, what was I going to say? Oh, SciStarter has a subject matter expert database. And, oh yes, yep, citizen scientists on SciStarter Live every week. And we also connect with the amateur astronomer groups through the NASA Night Sky Network. And that's a great resource as well.
And I wanted to say that we've actually included in the link bank under the event ideas section. If you're planning on hosting like a star party or anything like that, I did include a link to the Night Sky Network from JPL, where it is a really cool resource if you've never used before to find astronomy clubs in your area. If you're looking for amateur astronomers or experts who are willing to come and do virtual events, the Night Sky Network's a great source for that.
That'd be great. Yeah, we should include that in the link bank. All right. We're at the top of the hour. I just wanted to plug, as I mentioned at the beginning, that in April on Monday is the start of Citizen Science Month, which is a month-long celebration of citizen science. And our goal this month is to get 1 million acts of science through the various public participation activities that we shared today. So you can get started with your citizen science efforts today. You don't have to wait till the summer. We encourage you to check out if you haven't already. And this is a beautiful calendar here designed by Emma of all of the different activities, virtual and in person, that we're hosting all throughout not just us, our partners are hosting across the globe. So we encourage you to get started. And we have 2 really great webinars specifically for libraries in April. The first is on Earth Day, Reviving Nature's Narrative, Leveraging Libraries for Rewilding Initiatives. And then the second is the National Girls Collaborative Project Celebrates Citizen Science, where we have a librarian on the line, will be on the line to share about what she's doing at her library in upstate New York. So thank you so much for attending today. And this is just the start of the conversation. We're always here for answers. And one more shameless plug for Haley. If you can support her research and know anybody that would be interested in talking to her about how they're engaging in citizen science. But thank you so much to everybody for joining us today.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm going to throw that link bank one more time in the chat, and we hope you enjoy these resources we've been sharing out today, and you have a fantastic Citizen Science Month and a really fantastic summer reading this year.
Absolutely. And thank you to Dawn for joining us, and to Claire and Dylan, as always, for your partnership in this work. We are here to serve you, library, so don't hesitate to reach out.
Everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.
Someone said